said one.
Yeah.
What was the question?
So, like, type your experience in React, like how good you think you are out of 10. Yeah.
React.
So it's okay if you all don't know React, because like it's quite easy to learn. Yeah. So don't worry.
No idea.
Okay. Usually why you put 2 only? Pretty sure you're better than that. Okay. Alright. Okay, so we just wait for Cheese. If he doesn't come by 9:35, then we just start.
Okay. HKU 是开学了是吧
HKU 还没有开17。UST
2月才开学。2月。
2月啊，2月几号？2月4。哦，新年过。哦，真好，这么多回忆。
UST 每一年都是这样啊，早哦。
你们考试是迟一点。June 这样考试是不是？没有啊，考完5月尾哦。
考完5月6月头做工。
Cheese, where is Cheese？ 除了他讲什么，你跟 Cheese 讲话。
他那边有时差，他在Vancouver 啊。
Vancouver，那边几点哦
？3几点？
哇，5点了，33 AM。
是不是？
不用等他那个时间。
等他这样子，没有，因为他跟我讲哦，他6点钟 try to attend 5:30。把6点，现在几点了？他们那边
？5点33。
5点33了，哎呀 ，OK 啦，行啦，我们直接开始啊。
OK。OK， wait， 等一下。Okay, can see my screen. Okay. So join the screen share. You have to join. Only can see my screen. Yeah. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright. Okay. So I'll just jump right into Next.js. Okay, so Next.js is actually like React. Basically you use everything in React, like all the syntax, everything is the same. But then there are some extra features. Okay, so in React you just like you have to use the router, right, to change the routes. You also have to use you also have to import a lot of stuff. You have to install a lot of libraries, extra libraries, right? But in Next.js, they basically cover everything for you. So you just download one package, which is the Next.js. You create the Next.js app. Then they will have all the routing routing for you. They will have even like those like head tags, something like this. Let me just show you. Okay, wait, never mind. I'll show you later. Okay, basically Next.js has a lot of like stuff built in. Okay, all right, and then first thing you have to do to create a Next app is just you run these commands. So if you all have Yarn, it's better to use Yarn because Yarn is more is quicker, and yeah, basically install stuff faster. Yeah, so you all can actually do with me. I'm just gonna like do just a random project. to show you all how to start off with Next.js. Yeah, so you all can just follow along, or you all can just watch if you want. Right. So the first step to create a next app is just run this command. So, right, and then we also be using Tailwind CSS, right? So if you all know Bootstrap, Tailwind CSS is quite similar, but also much better because they have a lot of extra classes, right? So for example, you see, right, for the CSS here, this Tailwind UI. So if you want to go search Tailwind, you just Google it, and just click link here, and then click get started. You can just search for like what components you want. Let's say the most common component I would say is a flex box. Yeah, so you just search flex, then you can see they have a lot of like stuff here, flex, blah blah. They have a lot of other stuff also. They also have typography. You can change your fonts. You can put font color, font size, and the weight, you want bold or like light. You can also change the letter spacing, make it like further apart. Yeah, so basically you see like this is so much better than Bootstrap already because they have all these things built inside. So you literally don't have to write any CSS. Yeah, just write class names is good enough already, right? But one thing bad is like the learning curve is pretty steep because you have to basically like memorize all these or I mean, you can just search every time, but yeah, you have to like sort of memorize yeah. And then Tailwind CSS also has IntelliSense, right? So meaning that if you, let's say, right, if you want to type something here, like let's say text, then we got a lot of Tailwind CSS classes you can pick from. Yeah, so this one really helps, so you don't need to memorize. Okay, right. So to have that, you just go to extensions there and then install Tailwind CSS. Then you install this, the one with the most downloads. Okay, alright, so I'm just gonna just start off a project with Tailwind CSS and Next.js. And I'm just gonna build like a simple shop or something like Taobao like that. Okay? Right, so you all just like watch or follow along, it's okay. Right? Okay. So first you just search Tailwind CSS starter with Next.js. Okay? Then you will click this link to tell you how to install Tailwind CSS with Next.js. Okay? Alright, so then just copy the command, put it in a terminal. Okay, right. Then here you install all the stuff already. Okay, they install everything for you. And then, yeah. So, oh yeah, so you all have to have Node.js and NPM, right? So I assume if you all code React before, then you will have those things installed, right? So yeah, and then if you want to install Yarn, which I suggest you all do because Yarn is much faster, just type sudo npm install -g Yarn. Okay, when you type this, then you will install Yarn. Yarn is basically just like npm. Okay, and then when you type Yarn, you type add instead of like npm install, you type Yarn add. Okay, and then basically all the other things are similar. Yeah, you can use yeah. Okay, all right. So to start off, just add this command just now, npx create next app my project. Okay, after that your cd inside the app that you just created. Mine is just test next app. Okay, test next app. Why is there no such file? Oh, okay, alright. So this is it. Your next app is here. Right. So just basically, okay. So you see, right? This is the initial project directory. You have your node modules here. You have your pages. So pages is basically like how normal HTML is, right? So the main page is index.html, right? So in Next.js, the main page would be index.js. Okay, so once your next app loads, right, they will render this index.js first. Okay, so then underscore app.js is the wrapper that wraps your whole app. Okay, so this is useful if you want to, let's say, have a nav bar. Then you just put like this nav bar, something like that, and then you just wrap it. Just do like that. Okay, so then you have your nav bar on top always. And you have your footer here. Okay, so this is like the main wrapper in underscore app.js. Okay, yeah. Alright. So another thing is the API file here. Okay, so Next.js actually has a server running behind. So it's actually like a web server, like a Node.js server behind, and then it's just sending the all these files to the front end, right? So they have this API route, so you can call APIs like calling from a backend. Okay, so we don't really have to care about this first. Just ignore this part first. You can even like delete this file first, and then just focus on this stuff here first. Okay, and then public here is to store all your images, all your files. Yeah. So to access the public route, you just put this backslash here. So let's say you have the image tag, right? So you have the image tag like that. Then if I want to access this verso.svg, you just put backslash here. Okay, so you just put a slash as verso.svg. So this root slash, right, is directed towards this public file. Okay, you don't have to type like public or blah blah. Just put the slash. It's good. Okay. Alright. Next is the styles. Okay. So in styles, you can see that there is globals and there is home.module.css. Okay. So .module means that it's scoped towards a specific file. Okay. Globals is basically for the whole app. Yeah. So any class you define here. Let's say you define this class here, color black, right? Then you can use it anywhere in the file. Okay. But for home.module.css, you can only use it in a specific file, and you have to import it here. Okay. Yeah. So basically, it's a naming convention. It's so that you know that this CSS file is scoped towards a specific page or a specific component. Okay. Right. So okay, that's it. For the file directory, okay, all this basically is just like all the normal stuff of package.json, xconfig. You don't have to worry about all this stuff first. Yeah. So basically, just remember, index.js is the entry point. The page that loads first. Okay. And then public is all the static files. Styles, global.css. You want to define any global classes, just define it here. Okay. So how do we create like new pages? So it's just simple, like normal HTML. You just put, like, let's say, about.js. So this is your about us page. So let's say when you go to localhost, okay, let me just run the project first. Okay, so yarn dev will run your project. Not yarn start. Yarn start will not run the project. It's your yarn dev. Yarn start is for something else that I'll show later. Okay. So yarn start, you go to this first page, right? Okay. So you see. So this is your index.html. You can see that there is this Next.js. Welcome to Next.js. Blah blah. Yeah. Okay. Right. And then for about, so I just created an about page, right? So I just put I'll just return some random stuff. Return name it JSX. Okay. About us page. Okay. Right. So here So you must export default about, right? And then here when you type /about, then you will reach the about us page. Okay. So you all will notice that I don't have to write any like React router DOM, don't need to write any switch or routes or anything. They cover this for you already. Okay. All right. So you all can also create a folder. You can name about us about, okay, and then you shift this thing inside here. And you rename this index.csx. Okay. Then it'll also be the same thing, right? When you load about, the first file that loads is the index.csx. Yeah. Okay. Right. So basically this is about it for the routes. Next thing you have to know is how to add tailwind CSS to your app. Okay, so from here, you see you just download all this stuff. Basically they use all these packages. So just copy, put your terminal this time, add this. If you want to ask anything, just stop me. Okay. Yeah. Any question?
You all got any problems? Questions any? Is it all going like okay speed or like too fast, too slow? Any feedback?
Can you guys explain what the underscore app.js is again?
Okay, sure. Alright, so in React, right, you got one file called index.js, right? So inside index.js, you will render the main component, right? The highest root level of the whole app, right? So basically, this file is the same thing. It will render this component here is basically your app. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So basically, this one here is the entry point to your whole app. It's the highest root level.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, got it, right?
我知道你可以给他们看那个 .next 哦，那个 folder。.next 上面最上那 modules 啊，你看到那边有一个是哪一个 static 啊？它有一个 index.html 哦，它里面有一个你们可以去里面找啊。我记得它里面有一个 index.html， 它是做什么呢？就是当你假设你进了你的 local host， 然后你进了去过后它就会 look for 你的那个有一个 app ID 等于 app 的一个 div，OK，HTML tag 来的，可是它的 ID 等于 app， 这样子它要去哪里找那个 app 它就会进来找那个 JS file， 就会找到那个 app.js， 这样子的概念，你们知道吗
？OK， 看到。
它是从 index.html 去那边找的，那个你可以在 next 里面找出来。
OK。
Okay. So far okay, right, guys? Anything else? Okay, alright. So if you install already, then just initialize a tailwind CSS file. Okay, then you'll have it initialize two files. One is called tailwind.config.js, one is called post.css.config.js. So usually you don't have to touch this post CSS config. This one you have to just edit some stuff. So first of all, you need to edit this content here. So why do you need to do this? So in tailwind CSS, right, there are so many classes, right? Just now you can see so many classes. You have so many. So imagine if every app imports every single CSS class, right? Wouldn't the app be super heavy, right? So what this thing does here is it will compile and build a CSS file that has all the CSS that is used in all these files only. So for example, in here, let's say I use text to Excel. So then when I run this npm run build, when I build the file, then they will only compile my CSS file with this class name only, because this is the only one that I used, right? So basically what this does is, to summarize what this does is it will only compile the CSS classes that you need, so that you can reduce the bundle size. Okay, right? So remember to include this. If not, your CSS file is going to be so huge, and then every single user is going to download all the CSS file, and you wait very long. Okay, alright. So this is this step here. Then next is to add the tailwind CSS, all the classes lah. Yeah. So what you do is you just go to globals.css. You remove all the default one, then just type in these three. Okay. Yeah. So then just rerun the whole thing again. Run that. Then you should be able to see the font will change a bit. Font will change to the tailwind CSS default font. Okay. Right. So let me just try out some things. Just put like, let's say text rate 600, 500. Then you see it. Okay. Right. So there are a lot of classes lah. You all can just go there and check it out. So as you build stuff, right? When you search for stuff here, let's say you want to build like a card or something. Yeah, then when you search, then you will learn more about the classes. You don't have to like purposely go there and memorize every single class. Just when you build projects, you will find out like what you need to know, and then you will, in a way, you'll like remember it lah. Yeah. Okay. So this is just Next.js and tailwind CSS. You build the file already. So the next thing I want to tell you all is like the main difference lah. The main difference of a React app and Next.js is actually due because Next.js has something called server-side rendering. Okay, server-side rendering and static site generation. Okay, so these two words, it actually means server-side rendering just means that your server will render all the HTML files to you or JS files, and then all the client will do is just receive all these files. Compared to client-side rendering, everything done is done on the client side, right? But for server-side rendering, everything is done in the server. The client just gets the final HTML page. Okay, but for CSR, like a normal React app, everything is done in the client, right? So what happens when you visit a React app is you will download the initial, the whole build, and then from then on, everything will be done in the client. Okay, so this one puts a lot of load on the client, and also the initial build will be super heavy. So like when your user goes to the website, then he has to wait very long to see anything at all. Yeah. But for server side rendering, you can load pages one by one because the server will load for you. Yeah. So just remember that CSR has a huge bundle at the start. Okay, and then another important thing also is because why do we want to use SSR, right? So it's important because our website is mainly a landing page, right? So landing page for HKMSA, right? So we want to optimize for the search engine, right? And then one thing bad about Google crawlers is they cannot crawl client-side rendering files. Because some of the robots, they don't know how to parse JavaScript, so they cannot like go into the link tag. All they can see is all JavaScript. They cannot see any HTML, right? So why we want to use SSR is because SSR will like send the final HTML file so that it's very friendly to the Google robots to crawl your data, and so that it's better for search engine optimization. Yeah. And then one thing good about Next.js is also you have stuff like head. Okay, so head you don't see this in React one. You cannot like have a head tag in any single file, right? But you can have this in Next.js, right? So why is this important? Because right, usually for search engine optimization, you will put it in your you will put it in a head tag, right? You have to put it in metadata, right? So let's say you just put like meta tag, something like that. Then you can put like your search engine stuff, like what you have description or something, HKMSA website. So this is possible in Next.js, right? One good thing about Next.js. But in React, you cannot do that. So this is why we chose to use Next.js, because they have a lot of like built-in this kind of features. Okay, right. So one thing is server-side generation. Then they also have static site generation. Okay, so this is different. One is server-side rendering. Another one is static site generator. Okay. So all you have to know is this one requires a server. The server will render all the HTML files and all the JavaScript files, right? But the static site generator will generate all the HTML files and JavaScript files at build time. Okay. So what I mean by build time is, you see here, right? There's something called next build, right? So in React, you also have something called like React scripts build, something like that, right? Then you will build a whole file that you can send to your clients, right? In Next, you have this next build, and then this build will generate all the files required, right? So if you have static site, if you have this static site generator, right, you essentially will just generate pure HTML files and CSS files and JavaScript files. Yeah, if you run this command. Okay, so just don't have to really know all these concepts, but just know about it. Just because this is why we chose Next.js, because we want to use static site generation. And yeah, okay, all right. So okay, that's it. And then now we just go ahead and build. I'm just gonna build like some basic stuff. We'll build this basic how about thing. Okay, so I'll create a new page called products. Okay, and then index.tsx. Okay, so one thing important is when you all create another, like let's say another path about our products, or let's say we got in HKMSA we got also live in HK, right? Yeah, so it's best to create a new folder lah. Don't do like just now. Don't do like what I did just now. Straight away create about.jsx, right? So why don't we do that? Because we create a folder so that we can like, you know, how to say like make everything into components lah. You know, just separate things, so that in products here we can also have another page called like, let's say products create JSX. Then you also can have products delete, something like that lah. Then it's more clear, yeah, rather than just having all the JavaScript files outside. Okay, so products create the index.jsx. Okay, so I'm not sure whether you guys are familiar with functional components or not, but we are going to use that. We are not going to use like class components. So we were functional components. Okay, right. So products page is just like that. Products. We return some random thing products page. Okay. Then you go back here, and then you test it out. Okay, so what default? Okay, all right. So first thing we want to build is this whole container, right? So in Tailwind CSS, there's a built-in container that we can use. Container. So that you will have the boundary. So you see here, right, our HKMSA website, right? There's this boundary here, right? So it makes it nicer, rather than your stuff go towards the end here. Okay, so just put a container in every single page. Alright, so the container, then you can define your maximum width you want for your page. So let's say if someone got a super wide screen, right? The stuff will only be up until one point. It won't like go until the end. Yeah, so this is useful for that. So just put max width, we use 3XL. Okay, so in tuning CSS, there's like SM, XS, MD, LG, 2XL, 3XL, 4XL, 5XL, up until, I don't know, I think 12XL or something like that. Okay, so 3XL means 48 RAM. It means 768 pixels. Okay, right, so then you will build just put another div inside, and then what we have to do is put this name here, products page. And I'm not going to type Chinese, I'm just going to put English. Okay, right, so products page. Okay, and you save this and you see, alright, so why is our thing up until the corner is because I put max width 3XL, so this screen is smaller than that, that's why it goes until the end here. So what I should do is add a PX5 so that it doesn't go until the end, so it looks a bit nicer. And then also always add an MY10 so that it doesn't reach the top. Okay, maybe not 10, just 8. Yeah. Okay, so PX5 and MY8. Okay, so products page, okay, done. And then next is what we have to do is the images, right? And the file card. I mean the product card, right? So use a flexbox. So if you are not familiar with flexbox, please get familiar with it because this flexbox will make everything very simple. You don't have to care about what's that, responsive design. It will change the structure based on like your screen size. Okay. So just put flexbox here, and then put flex wrap so that your stuff will wrap to the next line. Okay, I'll just exclude that first so that you all know what this is for later. Okay, so to get all the products, I'll use this fake API store. Fake API store basically is to get all the fake products. Okay. So another thing we always use right now is Axios. Okay. So I'm not sure if you all know about Axios, but Axios is a HTTP client that will make everything very easy for you. They will pass the JSON into, they will pass your response into JSON for you. They will pass your request into JSON. Yeah, basically they'll do all the parsing for you. And then they will also, you also can like basically everything is much easier than if you use like the native fetch. Okay, so get familiar with Axios also. That's what we will be using, and like that's most probably what you'll be using if you all work as software engineer, web developer next time. Yeah. So install Axios, then just import Axios from Axios. Okay. So for Axios, if you want to get requests, you just put like that. If you want to post, you just put like that. Simple. Okay. So in React, we always use in functional components, we always use these two hooks. Okay, use effect and use state. Okay. Okay. So what does these two hooks do? So use state in the name here is state, right? So it stores states. Use effect will run. It's like you run a function when your page renders, and it will also run another function when your page unmount, or like your page is destroyed, or you change tabs, something like that. Okay, change to other screens or something. Okay, so I'll just show you an example for you all. So let's say here I just put console log. Alright, okay. So if you see in the console, you'll see you run high. When I refresh, you run high once. Okay. So if I return console log high like that, so what it does is it will run twice because essentially this return statement here, right? It returns a function here that, it returns this console.log high. So this console.log high will run when your page tears down. Let's say I refresh, there you'll run that function once, and then when you enter the screen again, you'll run it once more. Right. So this is good because let's say if I want to when I want to clean up connections, or basically it's for garbage collecting. Like you want to destroy event listeners, or you want to destroy you get my point lah. Yeah, if you want to destroy stuff lah. Yeah, before you change tabs. Okay, right. So use state is just to store state. So in React we do products, set products. Okay, because the use state empty array, right? So what this does is basically the first argument here. The first variable here called products is basically like a variable, like a basic variable for our products. Let's do like that. So set products is to set the product, right? To change the product. Change this array here. Okay, this array here is the initial state. I can put a string, I can put an integer, I can put anything. I can put an object also. Or will you do an array? Yeah. So any question? Someone unmute. Oh, hello, cheese. You woke up, legend. Okay, yeah, I'll just continue. Alright. So this is basically use state. So why they use this? Why they so pattern? Just use like const product. Because in React, right, they detect the state change by whenever you call this. When I run set product once, React will know that, oh, this state is changed, so I should repaint the screen. I should re-render the screen. Yeah. Okay. So then in use effect, all I'll do is I'll call the API Axios get big storage. Then response set products response.data. Okay. Right. So you'll see here, right? What this does is it will basically pull all the products from this API here, and then in the response, you will set the products here to the response, and then in Axios, the data is usually just in like .data. Yeah. Okay. Right. So then, what this does is every time your page render, it will run this query here. You'll get the products from here, from this one. So what we want to do is basically so we're gonna build some forum, and the second hand shell, right, for the HKMSA. So we have a backend database to store all these products. Then we also have a front end that will pull all the products from the backend. Yeah. So this is how you will do it, Yeah. Okay. Alright. Then you also can catch for errors, but usually we just ignore errors, okay? Because we don't want any client. We don't want the client to see any error. So just this is good enough, Yeah. Or if you want the client to see error, you just put catch error. Then you set products. So you set like an error message. Put products are unavailable or something. Okay. Right. Available. So to do that, you must have another. That's it. All right. Okay. So this one actually is like quite a lot of boilerplate code, right? So imagine if you have 10 pages, right, and then in every single page you have to write this query here. it's very tiring, right? So usually what we do is we will create a service, and then this file is to store all your services. Then you can store like API.js. Then you can store like get products equals to Excel.get blah 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 like that. This is what we will do lah, so that we don't have to type all these redundant thing every single time. Okay? Or even if you want to over engineer, right, you can use this package called React Query. This is a package for you to query all the stuff from backend. This library is very powerful because it has an inbuilt cache system, so you don't have to waste API calls. You cache stuff. You also have is loading, so that you can render some things while it's loading. You also have an error like that. Yeah, but this is over engineering lah, because our app is very basic only. Okay, but it's good to know lah, all these things. Alright, so then where was I? Yeah, so here you get the products, okay, and then here I'll just render see whether I got anything or not. Yeah, so there we go. We got all this stuff from the API. Okay, right. So everything is in JSON objects, and which is stored inside an array. So it's basically an array of many objects, right? So those who know React, right, you all should know this. So there's this thing called .map. So what it does is it will iterate in every single object in the array, and then in this basically every object will be stored in this variable here, product, and then you can render something. So I'm gonna just render the product.title. Okay, so what is the error? Missing key prop. So in React, you always have to put the key prop. Okay, alright. So then you see here is all the names. Okay, let's remove this first. Okay. Alright. So then what else do we need? We need the image, right? So the image is just img, source is just product.image, then out here just put. So remember to always include out, because out helps for the search engine optimization. So the Google search engine can actually like read your image and know what it is. So just put the product title, because we want Google to know what it is, right? So there are red squiggly lines because we cannot render two components. We must render one only, right? So always use these fragments. Don't use div. You use div, you waste one element. So use fragment. Fragment can save element, right? So there's green line here. Don't know why. Let me just see. Do not use image. They ask you to use next image. So just ignore this because we don't want to use the Next.js like image component. That one will very mafan. Just use this. Okay, good enough. Right. So then we just go back here. We see the image big as hell. Right. So what you have to do is just put the width on. Width, you just put W. That's 32. Right. This is still in CSS. Okay. Width, and then what else? Object contain. Okay, I'll just show you this width like that. So for object contain, what it does is to retain aspect ratio, so that your image don't look so weird. Like it doesn't look like it's expanded. It doesn't look like a fat shirt. It doesn't look like a long shirt. So it will look as if it's just your original photo. And if it's smaller than this width and height that you give, right, then they'll cut your image for you and then put the original image. So they won't like stretch your shirt, or for example this shirt here. So what's next is basically you put the title below. Okay, and then also we put flex wrap because we want them to wrap too. Yeah. Okay. And then the issue here is so let me just clean this up first. Okay. Alright. So the title here is so long, right? That's why it's making everything look so weird. So what we have to do is just you should just put a div here and then we just put a maximum size for the what? If 52. Okay, so then you will wrap the text will wrap, okay? And then you also put some padding. We want to put the border to border rate 200. So you want to put around it also. So, okay. You see, up until now I didn't type any CSS at all. So you can see like Tailwind CSS is very good. If you actually like get familiar with all the classes, right, you can build anything you want with only Tailwind CSS. Yeah. Right. So we also don't want this, you see this text here so long, right? We want to just truncate it. We want to put it as 2 lines. So to do that, right, you have to write some CSS. Maybe this is one of the things that Tailwind CSS don't have. Okay, so text truncate, vertical. This one is just something I searched from Stack Overflow. This thing does, what this thing does is it will clamp the text, make it only 2 lines. Okay? Right. So vertical. Then here, just put at this part here, put a title here. Text truncate vertical. Right. So you see then there's the ellipse here. Right? If you want to do something crazy, right, what you can do is just show the text when someone hover on this title, right? So what you have to do is, okay, I'm just gonna write code here. Basically, this group is to like wrap all this stuff inside into this group here. Okay, I mean maybe let's not do that because that's quite complicated. Then just okay, right, just like that. Then what else do we need? We also need the price, right? So one thing is don't always use div to write text. Sometimes you use p. P is better for the search engine also, and also it makes things more clear. Not like if your page has too many div, very confusing. Okay, so for this one, just put your product price. Put $, save it, and product price. So you want to style the text, right? Just put 2XL with LG. Okay. This one put 2XL. Too big. Just put that. Okay. Then after that, you want to change the color, just put text dot red 300. Okay. So Tailwind CSS don't have orange, that's why I put red. If you want to do orange, you need to mix colors. So you can mix colors on Tailwind CSS. Colors. Don't know how you do it. You can actually use. I don't know how to mix but there's actually a way to mix colors to build whatever color you want. Okay, so that's it. And then one very nice thing is also the hover plus. So let's say if I do this hover, let's say back BG turns to gray. BG turns to gray 900. Okay, so it means when I hover it, then it will change the background. Okay. So you see, imagine you can just do this with CSS. I mean, with Tailwind CSS. You don't need to write any CSS for this. So that's quite amazing, right? So what we want to do is we want to scale it, right? So you see what Taobao did. When they hover, they make the background like got shadow, right? So how do we do that? We go to Tailwind CSS. So I also don't know how to do that, so I'm searching it right now. Drop shadow. Okay, so you see here, drop shadow, LG, you just take this. Then we put on hover, put a drop shadow. Okay, so you see here there's a drop shadow. I think this one looks quite weird, but then yeah. Okay, so we just put a gap here so that it can be more spaced apart. Okay, right. So you see we have a nice shot here. Okay, that's it. Alright, so yeah. Why does it look so weird? Okay, never mind. Alright, another nice thing is also, right, you can have breakpoints. So let's say you want your text to be smaller in the small strings, right? So you just put SM, text SM. Okay? And then after that, you want your letter to be large after MD, then you just put like that. So the breakpoints meaning, right, SM is like, if your minimum width is 640px, let's say your string goes to 640px, then you will change this text to SM. MD is when your minimum width is 768 pixels. Okay? So for mobile, right, you usually use XX, SX, like that. So then anything below, there's no mobile. I think you just put text XM. Yeah. So this one is for mobile. This one is the default class, right? Then your text will be SM. And then when it is more than 640 pixels, then your text will be MD, for example. So use LG. Okay. Then after MD, your text will be XL. Okay. So there are a lot of breakpoints. You got LG, you got XL also, like that. So you can also make responsive designs like that with Tailwind CSS. Okay. So I'm just going to show you all what I did like that. Then you go smaller, you see the text becomes smaller, right? You go larger, then the text becomes larger. Something like that. Okay. Right. So you can do responsive design, so very easy. So that's basically it lah. I think that's it for this Tailwind CSS. So just now I told you all about static site generation, right? So what you can do is, right, so static site generation, what it does is when you run next build, this build here, right, it will generate all the HTML pages for you. Okay, so then what you can do is just export a single function, get static props text. Okay, so what this does is during the build, right, when you run this build, it will run this function here, and then you'll get the props. Okay, so just wait a while, right? I'll play what I'm doing. So let's say you just put products equals to extras. Get this thing here. Okay, then response. Okay, so you're familiar with async await. I mean, async await is just very simple. Just put async and then put await in any case you want to await for the response. Right. So then you get your products ready. You return props products. Okay. So when you see this, right, it's literally like something you pass here. So in React, you always pass props to your components, right? So what this does is it will add these products here to one of the props. Okay. So then you can use that props. You don't need this anymore because inside your props you have these products. Yeah. Okay. So from here, just put props.products. Yeah. So the difference between what we did just now and now is in the one before, here, this one, right? It will query the products every single time your page renders, right? I refresh one time, it will query one time. I refresh another time, it will query another time. Okay, and then you will set the products, right? But if we do this, okay, if we do this, oops, right? Then what it does is every single time you run this next build, then you will get the products once, and then you will populate your page with this thing. Okay, then they will generate an index. I mean, they will generate a product page based on the stuff that you queried. So meaning that when I run next.build, right? Next build, they will run this function here, and then they will return this as a prop, and then the component will use the prop to populate this whole all this stuff here, right? And then they will build a HTML page. So in a way it became a static site, right? Because we built a static site based on all these products that we got during build time. Okay, but if you use this, right, your page is not static, because the client will, every time your client loads the page, it will run the query and get, so it becomes dynamic. It's not static anymore. Okay, that's the difference, and that is one very good thing about Next.js, because it lets you generate all these things at build time, which is very good for search engine optimization. Yeah. Okay, so what I did here was actually quite messy, because you see the code here very messy, right? So in React they always say put everything in components. So that's what I'm going to do now. Columns, product, okay, product, cart. Okay, so wait, why so weird? Okay, then here I can just get product, cart, product, plus to product. Okay. Web error. Key. Need a key. Product. ID. Okay. If you know React, right, this should be quite familiar to you all. Yeah. So I don't know why is there error. Let me see.
Export. Export a product card.
Need meh? Don't need lah. Because we use product card here.
Because it's outside the products, right? Your cons is outside the products. Your product card is outside your cons.
Okay. Wait, right. So what? Export.
No, just maybe line 15. Export cons. You try.
Okay, wait. Maybe it's not there. Maybe it's because. Okay, just props. So I think it's the problem with props. Product array. Hey, I think it's
return the div probably.
You mean here, is it?
Yeah.
So I don't think it's there, because if you don't put anything in the arrow function, right, you will return on its own. But just try this. Yeah, so it's not there. So I think the issue is somewhere.
你的 product 有没有product 那个 product 是不是要 destructor？ 上面那个
哦，这里啊，哦，对呀。啊 ，OK， steady bro。对。
So 那个 destructor 是什么？
Okay, so destructuring is, so initially just now, right, this thing here should be props there, right? Then what I have to do is props dot product blah blah blah, props dot blah blah blah, props dot blah blah blah. Okay, so it's very messy, right? So what you can do is in JavaScript you can destructure things like that. Then you should get the product inside. Okay, another example is, let's say I have dot equals to So if I want to get, usually if we want to get dot high, right, we just do like that, right? So what I can do is actually just like that. Dot. Then high will be stored inside this high variable. Okay, this is called object destructuring. I'll just Google for object structuring. You can search this Java if you're still not clear. I put inside the Discord. Okay, object destructuring. You can also destructure array. You see, A and B. Just now what we did, right, for the use state is actually destructuring the array. You see, just now is product, set products, right? Use state like that. So use state, this function here will return an array of products and of state and set state. Okay, so this is actually destructuring also. It's one of the example. Right, you see here A, B. A will be equal to the first one here. B will be equal to 20. Okay, dot 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 rest. This is called spread operator, which is something we will use a lot in React also. So spread operator. We can use this for JSON. We can use this for objects. We can use it for arrays also. Yeah. So get familiar with these two things. You will use it, and it's very convenient. It's only available in JavaScript, right? So this is it. I think nothing much really. So I guess what you all have to do is basically just get familiar with all the classes and the responsive design. Okay, because responsive design is very important. It's one of the main components of Tailwind CSS. And then you all can see, right, components here. They have quite a lot of nice components built in. You can see here, you can see. You can copy the code here of this beautiful nav bar. Also can do this. If you want to build your own side project, right, I suggest you use Tailwind because very, very nice. Okay. Alright, I think that's it for now. Any questions or not? No questions? Okay, I think I forgot to mention something, right? So, in React, we always have components, right? So, what we do is we will have this folder called components, and anything you want to do inside, just put, like, let's say, nav bar. Then we can use it. So everything, all the components you store inside this file here, folder here, called components. Okay, so this is like the basic structure of your Next.js code. Okay, pages, components, then blah blah here. Next time you also have this thing called utils. Utility is like let's say you wanna have convert JSON into string, or like convert time into some function or something. Then you store everything in utils so that you can reuse. Okay. And then you also have this file called services. This one is all related to API one. When you pull stuff from somewhere, then you store it here. Okay, so I think that's it. Any question or not?
Let's say if you use just like regular React.js, right, then how would things work?
Things will work. Okay, if you use regular React, right, and then we don't, like just now in Next.js we did the use state thing, right, and then with the use effect, the one actually works completely same as React. Okay, but the difference comes in when we use static site generation. Let's say when we use Next build, right, then Next.js can do this. Can generate static HTML for you, but React cannot. React just serves as a library for you to do like basic client-side rendering only. Okay, that's the difference.
Also, regular React is client-side rendering.
Yes. So what happens for React app is like once you load a React app, let's say I don't know an example of React app, but what you okay maybe I can use this. So this is a React app. See right? Network tab. You see what loads first, right? When I refresh the page, right? What loads first is basically a JavaScript file. Okay? You don't load any HTML. You need pure JavaScript to actually do everything. So what happens is you will download something called index.html, and then inside index.html there will be a root. Yeah, here will be a root. This root here, and then in this root, everything will be rendered inside here. See, you'll start rendering everything here. Okay. So this is one thing bad about React because it renders everything with client-side rendering. So like let's say if someone's PC is then noob, like cannot very like Pentium 2, Pentium 3 like that. Then they sure cannot load this website here because this website requires a lot of client-side computing power. Okay, so then this static site generation will be good, because it will generate the HTML for you, and then it will send all the HTML to you directly. Yeah, directly to you. Okay, so wait, maybe I can check something. Page source. You see, right? What I get is only this, The initial load is just this. There's nothing inside the page at all. Okay, then what happens is React will load everything inside this root. It will load the loading page. They will load all this form input, everything inside here. So this is the difference between client-side rendering and static-side generation or server-side rendering. Yeah. Okay, anything else? Nothing else, then we can wrap up already. So I think
the Excel's thing.
The Excel thing, yeah, sure.
You use that to fetch stuff from the backend, right?
Yep. Yeah. I sent the link already. So just check it out. Like, don't need to do any JSON parsing or anything. They help you parse everything. Very nice, Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, all okay. Okay, then we start developing already, We start building this thing in Next.js already.
So
Maybe we can
play a bit. Play around.
Sorry? Play around.
To play around. Okay.
Yeah. Go and build a to-do list or something. Yeah. So you get familiar with it first. Yeah. Hey, Juan. Then say more.
OK，搞定你搞定了 ，OK 啊。
OK。
OK，然后 OK 啊，我讲华语啊，所以大家暂时没有问题问先啊，要自己去 try 是不是？
还没问题。
OK 啊，你们 try 的时候，你们会可能遇到一些问题，可以的话自己去看 Stack Overflow， 去看 Docs， 有问题真的是解决不到就才来问OK。And 这个 Next.js 为什么我们会教这个呢？是因为它这个东西是confirm 是 the next big thing 啦 ，OK， 因为就是 like 之后呢，他讲这个 static get static props 它还有一些比较深的get server side 啦，还有一个 get static path 啦，都是你们可以去看的。可是你们先搞好 get static prop， 然后你们去开始去读 docs， 就是 Next.js 的 official docs。OK， 你上 Google Next.js， 你直接找到第一个就是了。你去里面读完过后，你就大概知道为什么你就慢慢这样读啦，什么是 client side， 什么是 server side， 然后你就会 trace history 你会 trace 到去 PHP 啦，然后到React 啦，然后到 Next。So 很多大公司他们已经开始用 Next 了啦， for some reasons 啊，所以你需要知道为什么他们会用啦。OK， 这个 as a developer， 这个是要去 keep up to 那个 latest technology 的一个我们需要 keep up to latest technology 啦 as a developer，OK？、所以这个的空你们可以去看，然后你们去读一下 next docs，对你们是很有帮助的。然后 API 呢，你看到讲 core 了啦，然后你也知道 back end 大概讲是做 API 了嘛，是不是？然后呢，我们差不多前后都会一点点了，我们就下一次我们就会做好 back end， 做一个 URL shortener， 然后我们front end 就做可能一个小的 URL shortener 的 front end， 就这样子当我们的 Hello World project 啦 ，into becoming HKMSA webmaster， 然后我们就开始做就是migrate site 啦，然后做 e-commerce 了 ，OK？ 有问题吗？
没有。
OK 啊，没有啊。OK，so 对，so 去看 docs， 然后你们可以 like experiment 一下，或者是你们可以去看 YouTube 啦。我之前看过一个很好的是 Uber clone， 有一个 YouTuber 了，忘了叫什么名什么 clever programmer 请一个人，然后他来讲那个 Uber clone 在 YouTube， 还有3集我记得。SJS 第二个
这个
还有对，它有2个影片，3个 episode， 所以你们可以去看啦。如果是还是用 Firebase but then Firebase 那边你大概看看也是可以啦，因为有可能我们有机会用到的。OK，so 这个是你有时间你就去玩咯，你没有时间就也不用紧。可是 docs 最好去看一下啦。然后对咯 ，OK 吧？有没有问题吗？
还没有问题，
还没有问题啊。OK，so 知道你给他们做什么吗？
有什么东西给他们做去 build 自己的 to do list That's the easiest way to learn I think. Yeah.
To do lah, okay.
Build to do list, build with your CSS, just design whatever you want like that. Yeah, I guess that's the easiest way to start lah. And then for those who don't know React at all, right? You all can try to learn lah. But if you all really cannot learn, then you all can do backend instead. Because backend you don't need to learn anything lah. Just need to know Python. Yeah. So don't worry lah if you all don't know React or if you all really cannot do Next. Still got stuff for you to do for backend. Yeah, that's it. Nothing else.
我觉得这个 front end 要搞好先，不然的话，如果你做 back end 你不知道 front end 讲 work 其实是有点难的，沟通上面以后我们出去做工不会 front end 的东西，那 basic 知识啦，不会就比较难沟通啦，因为你 visualize 不到 front end 要什么 ，unless 你做过 front end，so 两边都要学。如果你是没有底的啦 ，like 那种 HTML 也不会CSS 也不懂，什么 JS 也不懂，为什么会出现，为什么这3个在一起哪一个做哪一个？我建议你们真的是去看那个 YouTube， 刚刚我介绍那个影片是 OK 的，是很 beginner friendly 的，然后你可以去 search 啦 ，OK，目标是可以做那个 to do list 就可以做到 ，OK， 做不到的话 React 的那个概念要搞好先，就是single page application 的概念要搞好，single page application 就是现在的 trend 可以这样讲 ，OK，没有东西了从我这边，现在你们周末都有时间嘛，对不对？你们就可能会花一点来懂一下，或者是因为你们上班有用到啦，或者是你们放工过后有时间，或者你们根本没有上班那些好了 ，OK。
Thank you.
Okay, good night guys.
Alright, thank you very much.
HKU 的 号 and white hand，你没有拿过3322吗？
有。
什么 modern？
OK 啊，那个很多东西学啊，but it's very you learn a lot of stuff and very heavy on assignments. You do assignments well, then you can most probably get good grades. Yeah.
Do you recommend me taking it coming year 2 sem 2?
If you got like spare time to, because this one is quite heavy. Yeah. You got spare time then take but you learn a lot. It's very rewarding.
Okay.
什么是3322？
一个 HQ 的 course。
哦，like
这样的东西了。你那时候我 send 你那个。
PHP 那个。
PHP, Node.js, Express, React, Mongoose 什么查都有。
还有教 Express 啊？
对啊，很多东西。
这放了哦 ，OK。worth 啦，我是觉得 even learn PHP 也是 worth 的，因为PHP 还是在市场上啊，还是有人在用啊。and 它是 one of the 大哥大，很久以前就存在了，我们还没有出世，它就存在了。
是啊。And all the WordPress website is using PHP, so just good to know also.
其实我不懂如果没有 WordPress 啊，不懂有没有人用 PHP， 应该没有。
我觉得没有人用啊。马来西亚很多人用。
我现在去看那些Malaysia job board Malaysian 他们要的全部虽然是有 PHP 啦 but then 他下面会跟你讲 knowing React Vue is a plus Vue 很少 React is a plus Next is a plus 这样子的。
the whole world go to React already.
And the next big thing could be Svelte. 我们看讲先啦。
Yeah.
它也是一个React 这样子 similar framework， 不过它是很 minimalist 的。它叫 Svelte SVELTE。
This guy the creator, this guy is.
用这个 project 给 Vercel 买了吗？
我知道，那个 Rich Harris 跟 Vercel 做工了。
是啊。
This is gonna be the next shit lah. This is gonna be the next shit lah.
啊
This is gonna be the next thing already. It's gonna win React, cause 这个比 React 快。React 还要用 virtual DOM 嘛，这个不用，这个直接跑。
它的 code 少很多，写什么 use state use effect 什么鬼的。
Go and check it out, guys. If you're free.
这个多1-2年这个东西就开始有 production 的grade 了啊，就开始很多人就会转了，应该啦。
又要学一个 work 了。
没有它也是 single page application 的一个 concept， 只是那些用法那个syntax 是不一样罢了。but then 那个 core concept 就是是差不多一样的，所以不用怕。
他也是有好像他自己的 next.js called Spell Kit. So this is gonna be the next thing guys.
我们等看它会变到怎样。
Next trend.
Yeah， 这个真的很像写HTML file 这样子的，就是你们可以看啦。讲样多，你们去看。
Keep up with the technology.
你们有人会 UI UX 还是 Figma 的吗？我知道总会会一点，
但是我 design choice 很烂的
你 Figma 会还是 UI UX 啊
？Figma。
OK， 可以，因为
我是用过 Marvel， 但是它有另外一种app 是做 Figma 的比较好。
什么名？
我是用过 Marvel， 但是还有一个我忘记什么名了。
Marvel 讲 spell。
Marvel MURVEL。我 send link。
是那个Marvel那时候，
his name is App Marvel. This SEO sure fail one.
plug in 来了。
plug in, okay. Marvel. 其实你会做 animation 的吗 ？graphic 吗？哦，OK。那边人吗？其实那边人。
OK 了 OK 了，现在应该是3度4度了。
我的老嘞。
哎，有鸭子跟你吵架吗？打架？
现在没有啊，我没有在好之类这些地方。
哦。Marvel Rapid Prototyping Testing and Handle for Modern Design Teams。
就是我去开个饭的时候有用到一点点啊，就做 planning，然后我觉得是像 Figma 这样的东西啊。
不过它比 Figma 好啦 like in terms of like speed 啊。
那个我就不知道。
OK， 这个我OK 可以我们去看一下。因为其实 like 就题外话啦 like 我也会迟点会跟那个这个什么 department 啊 PR 那边去讨论那个 design。
这样很好，这样好。
confirm 了的话，对，confirm 了，我们这边就可以开始做工。好，OK。
对，除了等下你留下来一下，我会跟你discuss 这个东西。
好啊，可以啊。
对。OK 啦，that's it 啦，guys。Nothing more.
Thanks, guys.
OK，谢谢。OK 啊，没有问题，拜拜。没有问题，记得可以 text wherever you want，有人应你啊。
Okay.
OK 啊，OK。
Okay, thank you very much.
Bye.